Hey everybody, Chris the English teacher here again. Today I'm going to be teaching about a few of the most common pronunciation mistakes that Brazilian students make when they are speaking English. And just because you are not Brazilian doesn't mean that you cannot learn several things from this video. So keep watching, okay? The first pronunciation mistake that I want to talk about is opening closed syllables. A closed syllable is a syllable that ends in a consonant, and an open syllable is a syllable that ends in a vowel. Usually Brazilian people try to open those closed consonants by adding the E sound. Here are a few examples of that situation. Usually I'll hear my students saying biggie instead of big. It should be big, not biggie, but big. Some students say funny instead of fun. The word funny exists, but if you're just talking about enjoying something, then it should be fun, not funny. Another really common one is saying havey instead of have. Here, have is only one syllable, so it's have and not heavy. The next mistake is mispronouncing words that end in ed. First of all, I should let you know that I have already filmed a video that goes in depth about how to pronounce the ed. So if I don't give you enough here, go check out that video. There are actually 3 different pronunciations for the ed ending in English. There's the t ending for words that end in an unvoiced sound. There's the d ending for words that end in voiced sounds. And there's the id ending that is used for words that end in the t or d sound. Probably the most difficult of all of those endings is the third one, the id pronunciation. For some reason, my Brazilian students really like to take out that I sound, and it just ends up sounding like D, which is a completely different category. Here are a few examples of that phenomenon. Instead of saying wanted, I hear a lot of my Brazilian students saying wanted, td, td. But here we really need to open it up. We have to put that I sound in there. It's wanted, not wanted. Another example is faded. Faded. Here, instead of saying faded, my Brazilian students say faded. Faded. But here it should be faded. Here, just focus on making that last syllable longer. Faded. Faded. Another example is saying planted instead of planted. Planted. Not planted, but planted. The next rule is putting an E sound in front of an S consonant cluster. An S consonant cluster is 2 or more consonants that start with the letter S. So instead of saying strong, I hear my students saying strongy, strongy, but here it should be strong, strong. Here we really have to just focus on making that S sound longer. Usually that helps, I think. So here, instead of saying strongy, here it's strong, strong. After practicing, you'll get better at it. A couple more examples are saying stay instead of stay, and stoppy instead of stop. Mistake number 4 is mispronouncing the letter L. So here again, I have already made a very detailed video about how to correctly pronounce the letter L that I think would be very helpful for you if you are making this mistake. Instead of pronouncing the letter L correctly as L when it comes at the end of a word, I hear my Brazilian students pronouncing it as oo. So instead of saying Brazil, I hear my Brazilian students saying Brasil. Here it's Brazil. Focus on putting the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth to correctly pronounce this. Another example is saying the word hoe instead of whole. Whole. Here it's whole, not hoe. And the last example is saying call instead of call. Here you'll notice that for that first one I was using my lips, but for the correct one, I'm not using my lips. I am only using my tongue. If this is still kind of difficult for you, please go check out that video I made on how to pronounce the letter L. Mistake number 5 is mispronouncing words that begin with the y sound. Brazilians like to use the E sound instead of the y sound. They're very similar, but they're still a little bit different. So instead of saying you, the correct way, my Brazilian students will say EU, EU, EU. Here we really have to focus on having our tongue close to the top of our mouth and then pushing that sound forward. So it's not you, you. Here it's y, y, you, you, you. Here I'm kind of aggressive about it. I'm really pushing that sound out of my mouth. You. Another example is saying young, young. But here it's young, young, young. Here there's a lot of movement happening with my tongue there. But my Brazilian students like to keep it more chill. They keep their tongue more relaxed. It's just young, young. But here it's young, young. Here there's that forward movement of the tongue. Another commonly mispronounced word is yes. Yes. It should be yes, but when my Brazilian students say it, it sounds like you're just saying two letters, E and S. It sounds like ES, ES. But here it's yes. So try to be a little bit more forceful with your tongue to correctly pronounce that sound. Number 6 is mispronouncing words that begin with a W. In English, we pronounce the W as w. We focus on opening our mouths for that one. W. But my Brazilian students focus on closing their mouths and they say ooh. So instead of saying where, I hear my students saying where. But here it should be where. Here it's a little bit stronger and faster, kind of a little bit more aggressive. Another example is saying want. But here it should be want. You'll notice that I didn't start making a sound until my lips were already opening. So here it should be want, not want. The last example is saying why. Here it should be why. Pronunciation mistake number 7 is mispronouncing the TH sound. Surprise! Again, I have already created a video about this situation. I think it's called How to Pronounce the TH Sound in English. So if you find this topic especially difficult, you can go check out that video. My Brazilian students do a lot of different things to mispronounce the TH sound when there are only 2 correct pronunciations of the TH sound in English. There's the th sound, and with this sound we're not using our voice, And we are focusing on putting our tongue between our teeth to make that sound and blowing that air through our teeth. It's easy for me because I have a lot of gaps in my teeth, but I promise you can probably do it too. The other pronunciation of the TH sound is th, th, th. Here I am using my voice and the air is going slower. So here are a few examples. Instead of saying thanks, thanks, I'll hear my Brazilian students saying tanks or thanks. Instead of saying three, I could hear my Brazilian students saying something like free or tree. And instead of saying with, with, I hear my Brazilian students saying with. Here, just remember that we are focusing on putting our tongue between our teeth for this one. Our lips are totally relaxed and our tongue is between our teeth. Mistake number 8 is mispronouncing the ing ending. There are usually 2 different ways that my Brazilian students mispronounce this ending. The first way is completely taking out that ing sound. So instead of saying doing, I hear doing. But here we have to make that second part of the word louder. It should be doing. Another example is playing. Here we can hear that ing sound. But sometimes I hear my Brazilian students saying playing. But here it should be louder and longer. Playing. Another example is saying seeing. But here it's seeing. You'll notice that ing is a syllable all by itself. The other way to mispronounce the ing ending is pronouncing that G. Maybe you didn't know this, but in English, when we have a word that ends in ing, we do not have to pronounce that g sound. So instead of doing, it should be doing, ing. Here I'm focusing on putting the middle back of my tongue up to the roof of my mouth slowly. So again, it's doing, and not doing. Another example is saying playing instead of playing. Playing is the correct pronunciation. Not playing, but playing. The last example is saying seeing instead of seeing. Here again, I am slowly moving the back middle of my tongue up to the roof of my mouth. Seeing, ing. Pronunciation mistake number 9 is mispronouncing the letter R. I usually hear my Brazilian students doing one of 2 things. Usually they pronounce the R as either a h sound or a r sound. And in English, we do not do that. English has a very particular way of pronouncing the letter R. To pronounce the letter R in English, you have to focus on making your tongue kind of hard and making the tip a point. It has to be kind of pointy and at the bottom front of your mouth. Also, you have to focus on making your lips round. It's going to look like you're making a kiss face. So here it's Here are a few examples of using the h sound instead of the correct sound. Instead of saying red, my Brazilian students will say head. But here it should be red, not head. Another example is saying heel instead of real. Another example is saying hope instead of rope. rope. I've noticed that my Brazilian students do this especially when the letter R is at the beginning of a word. So pay attention to that. Remember, it's R and not H. The other way to mispronounce the R sound is to pronounce it as the R sound instead. So here, instead of saying create, my Brazilian students will say create, create. But here we have to focus on using our lips for that and not our tongue. Here it's create. Another example is saying great instead of great, great. And the last example is saying pray, instead of pray, pray. The last pronunciation mistake that I'll talk about in this video is palatalizing the letter T instead of using the stop T. Again, I have already made a video about how to correctly pronounce the stop T in English. So if this is tricky for you, you can go check out that video and I really get into the correct way to pronounce the stop T. Yes, I already know. Palatalizing the letter T. What does that even mean? When you palatalize the letter T, it sounds like ch. So here, instead of cat, it sounds like my Brazilian students are saying catch, catch. Instead of saying hit, it sounds like my Brazilian students are saying hitch, hitch. But here it's hit, hit. Here we are focusing on stopping our voice with our throat. The last example is saying petch, petch, instead of pet, pet. Please remember to check out that video because I really think it would be helpful for you if you find this a little bit tricky to do. I know it was a little bit long, but we were able to go over 10 different pronunciation mistakes that Brazilian students make when they are pronouncing things in English. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please click the like button and comment if you have anything that you want to add or any questions for me. Please don't forget that I have my own Instagram account where I post a lot of information about English pronunciation, grammar, culture, etc. My username is Language with Chris. Thanks again so much for watching. I'll see you next video. Bye!